most important person first, least important person second, and the one in the middle next.
Hello.
I must work. I must prepare intro jokes, otherwise they just crash and burn. And I've just insulted both of you.
Oh, well.
How's it going?
I'm great.
Yeah,
good.
All right.
I've called this one Last Days of Rome because there's two things that have been happening recently that I think, well, three actually. Where's it four? Well, anyway, I think Chappelle.
Yeah.
I think Chappelle. I think Loudon County is about to go really big. And I think the Stonewall documentary in the UK is going to do a job. So I'm noticing also a lot of people are waking up and talking about it in a different way. I also notice people like Michael Cashman are absolutely panicking.
Yeah, sorry, he's deleted. It's okay. He deleted the BBC News app from his phone, so he's all good.
Good.
Oh, that'll do it. The BBC's crumbling right now. It's crumbling.
but don't you feel that it feels different? You know, it's been 5 years for me, or 4 years for me now of this nonsense.
I got together with my friend last night so we could watch the Chappelle special together. I didn't know the whole thing was about trans. I thought there was going to be one line. The whole special was just, I am sick to death of gender bullshit. It was like, whoa.
It was great. And, you know, he had a very supportive audience. The audience were with him. You know, a couple of oohs and ahs at one point, you know, is kind of, you know, but generally, I don't know. No one can really, you know, the usual people have been telling us not to watch it. Like The Guardian ran two things on it, I think. You know, and The Guardian, I mean, let's look at The Guardian over the last few years, or even over the last few months. The Guardian has been running a propaganda campaign for trans ideology, for gender ideology for as long, like at least 5 years. You know, they kind of they're still kind of doubling down. Like The Guardian is one of the only places I see outside of Twitter where people use the word cis. I saw Zoe Williams use it, cisgender, and as Chappelle said, you know, trans people love making up words to win arguments, and I think that cis,
that's brilliant.
I think that cis and cisgender is the best, most perfect kind of crystallization of that argument. You know, because I'll give you an example. Her stunt, for instance, the big argument there was, at least I think the big argument against my stunt was that I was a cis man, and therefore I was different to these other men who were trans, you know. But of course, they're all cis men too. They're all cis. So cis, and you know,
they're all just men. Yeah, exactly.
They're just men.
Well,
they're just men.
I mean, come on. It's just how it is, isn't it? I mean, it's they're males. I still, you know, there's been another ongoing argument on my feed under, you know, my asking somebody the question. And it's just the hyperbole. The hyperbole. There's one bloke saying you're debating people's lives. And you're like, in fact, it wasn't even that. It was allowing people to live. It was the most extraordinary thing, you know, almost accusing women of genocide by not allowing male people into their changing rooms.
Yeah, that was astonishing, because he literally said, if you your question was, should male-born people with a penis be allowed in women's changing rooms? And his response was, you're asking whether they should die. And it's like,
It was. I'm actually going to find the response because it was so insane. But the point is I can't remember the point. What was my point?
It's just frustrating. It's just constant. What were we talking about? Cis. The word cis.
Oh, yes, that's right. And then the pretense then that you want to exclude people because they're trans. And you're like, no, it's because they're male. You could even say, if we agreed to this ridiculous language, it's because they're cis. Do you know what that's
I mean?
Right.
A cis man in lipstick is still a cis man.
Whilst you debate their right to live. I mean, you know, the hyperbole has sort of grown sort of exponentially now, and now you're debating their right to live. Yeah. I mean, how can you write that? How can you write that uncritically and think to yourself, yeah, Yeah, that's good. I've got them now.
What this has been, I know there's some people say the last 5 years have been, some people accuse GC of being anti-intellectual. But of course, this is an anti-intellectual. Their side is an anti-intellectual movement because they don't have arguments. They just have these weird phrases that they've all trained each other to say. Debate your right to existence, cis, all this sort of stuff, They don't actually have any arguments. It's always reheated stuff from somewhere else as well. There's no cogent argument to this, And then when you get Judith Butler on the scene, it just becomes an unintelligible mess. That's not intellectualism. Real intellectuals try and make themselves understood. Judith Butler is trying to hide.
Yeah, exactly. She's
It's like I saw somebody say, and I might have even said this on Wednesday. I saw somebody say, somebody was sort of arguing on my side, a nice chap, and somebody said, "Oh, is this you?" and found a screenshot of something that he'd said just up above. I think I did say this, just up above. Which was, and it was so clearly part of a conversation where he was taking the mickey out of somebody, what someone had said, and then someone screenshots it and says, "Oh, is this you?" And we were talking about it, and I was saying, I have absolutely no need to take things out of context. I don't feel the need to take things out of context because actually I want it in context, because my argument stands for itself. I don't need to try and twist or take things out of context or say things like, "Oh my God, do you feel that you have the right to undress in front of young girls in a changing room who are uncomfortable with you being there?" An extraordinary long sort of hypothesis of this massive sort of built up scenario so that they can try and say, "Is that a yes or no? Is that a yes or no, Helen?"
It's just amazing. And is this, I'm not sure if this person explaining to someone or saying what the definition is, sorry. But basically the problem with cis as not trans is and this is something that should be clear to people, but for some reason escapes them. The other side do not have a definition of trans. They don't know what trans means. Even they don't know what trans means. Even Stonewall, even the Stonewall glossary is extraordinary, because the glossary for trans says, what is it? Oh yeah, trans covers anyone who describes themselves as. Do you know what I mean?
That's like saying emo covers anyone who describes themselves as emo. It doesn't mean anything. If it's just a label that anyone can describe themselves as, then it doesn't come with oppression. It doesn't come with extra vulnerability. It doesn't come with anything, because it's just a label. Once you made it, once you put no cost into applying to be trans, then you get no value.
Yes.
And sorry, Helen, go ahead.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think I was about to say pretty much what Artie said, but not quite as articulately. So I'm going to let Artie's one stand there. It's just a kind of it's used to win arguments. It's used to try and win arguments.
It's used to try and win arguments. I mean, Zoe Williams. Oh shoot! I got to plug in my computer. Zoe Williams said in her piece wrote this long piece that we thoroughly debunked today. I don't know if you've seen what we just did on the Substack, but Genevieve Gluck of Women's Voices wrote a long piece about, and I even hate saying the word out loud, what it is, about lactation fetishists.
Oh right, yeah.
And she and this idiotic woman who uses cis in the Guardian, this woman thinks that the language has to alter, has to change to suit the 86,000 men who are on a Reddit site called Who Cows, which is about milking women or being milked, and the opposite side is called a farmer.
Oh.
80,000 members, right? And I guarantee you a lot of those members will describe themselves as trans. So when that, what's her name again? I've forgotten her name. Her name's jumped out of my head. When the Guardian woman says that, she is giving up motherhood. Zoe Williams, she is giving motherhood to these men, and they can't have it. They can't have it. And it's words like cis that open the door to giving words like mother to men. You know?
Well, just the idea that I think people don't realize that the label trans isn't something like it's hard to explain this, but like the label gay, people aren't claiming to be gay who aren't gay. It doesn't really need any policing, because if you're not gay, you're not going to claim to be gay. You're not going to go around and start sucking guys' dicks if you're not sexually attracted to men. You know, if you're,
I've made my position clear on this.
The trans.
Yes, thank you, Arnie. Thank you for restating that. We were discussing the possibility last night.
Once upon a time, the transsexualism, it was very difficult, and there was a lot of social cost in being a transsexual, and that has completely disappeared because of our new identity politics, inverted pyramid of trying to correct past injustices in the social justice scheme that we've got going now. So there's actually a lot of impetus and motivation to identify into trans. It's not something that doesn't need policing anymore. So you've got all kinds of people. But there's this attitude that, like, if you call yourself trans, you must have some horrible suffering inside of you, and there must be some terrible victimhood inside of you, because no one would opt into it for fun. And it's like, actually, a lot of people would opt into it for fun. There's a whole world of people with sexual fetishes who are now taking the opportunity to step out of their private lives with their sexual fetishes. There's a lot of people who are seeing that there's opportunities available to them on YouTube or on social media when they identify as transgender. There's a lot of people who are seeing that they can commit crimes against women and children by identifying as transgender. So there's all these motives to opt into it. This isn't like any other kind of identity.
Jimmy said here's the thing. I know I've said this before, but I really want, like, I don't know, people who are on the fence to bear this in mind. But Jimmy Savile, he got where he got in a world that wasn't connected. He was able to do what he did because he used the BBC, he used celebrity, he used charity organizations to unlock the doors of hospitals and children's homes and all sorts of other places so that he could walk in and abuse them. Okay? These days, the key is the word trans. And a lot of Jimmy Savile types, and we've seen them, we keep reporting on them in the Substack, are coordinating online. They're coordinating online. They're giving advice to each other. They're grooming kids online. They're encouraging things like the use of puberty blockers, even though they themselves have taken no hormones and are not doing anything like that. So basically what you have is a nebulous form of people who are supposed to think cannot be questioned, in the same way that a poor woman had a policeman come up to her and put her in handcuffs, and she didn't think she could question him because he said, "Oh, it's COVID. You're breaking COVID rules." And that's why he took her away. So what you're doing is you're making every single person the kind of the person who regulates reality. And we can't do that because not everyone is good. Not everyone is nice. Not everyone is like your gender non-conforming friend who's read too many Tumblr blogs and thinks they're trans.
That's such a luxury belief. Not everybody's a middle-class suburban person. We live in a world full of criminals. There's a reason. The entire police forces, the entire criminal justice system, the entire courts, the entire prisons, all of it is there because there are people who behave badly constantly, really, really badly, and do terrible things all the time. We live in a world full of people who behave badly, almost all men, So the idea that we can just pretend that everybody's fine is insane. Yeah.
And
it is the most insane thing, isn't it? I still find it astonishing to see men just absolutely arguing for the right of men to undress in women's changing rooms, where they know women and girls are undressing, or to refuse to say point blank that they believe it by trying to shame women. Like I get so many. Why are you undressing in front of children? Why are you like mothers haven't taken their kids to a communal changing room with other women where they can all look after each other's kids whilst they get undressed at the same time, and have done forever. it's the most astonishing thing that the way men are sort of walking into this conversation and trying to shame women for actually just wanting to be together. I think a woman on my feed made a really interesting point yesterday, something that I think is overlooked a lot, that it isn't just about safety or dignity or peace of mind. Women-only spaces are important. That's, for some women, going to the gym maybe and talking to other women in the changing room is possibly the only time in a day that she'll get to talk if she's, sort of looking after small kids or sort of home alone by herself.
That's right.
To talk to other sort of female adults. Yeah. And that is important. When women, they're putting their makeup on or doing their hair sort of in their underwear by the mirrors, and they're just chatting away. I've made great friends in my work communal changing room, other female cyclists who I wouldn't have known through other parts of work. I just know them from there. And it's a lovely companionable thing. And this is something that actually a lot of these men don't want us to have. They actually want to destroy that. It's purposeful that they want to destroy that. They want to destroy this companionship of women because that is dangerous.
Yeah, they resent it. I think you're exactly right. I think there's a sneering resentment that women have a place that men aren't allowed to be at. May I ask about something, because this is something that I always wondered about. These kind of male clubs and male places and stuff. Helen, what did you think of them? Like, Freemasons and all that sort. I mean, Freemasons is different because it's so political.
It is. Well, they're different, aren't they? When you have male clubs, they were different because they were bastions of power. They were where men could make decisions without women present and make decisions about and network with other powerful men and get ahead in business and sort of all sorts of ways and absolutely excluding women. So it's a very, very different idea. And in fact, it's the same when you look at it sort of with changing rooms or anywhere. Like a man's one could be unisex without any problem. But a female one has to be sort of female only. It's a definite. There's a power imbalance, isn't there? A man only space. Now, I think that there are certainly spaces where men should be alone. Say, like a prostate cancer maybe survivors group or anything like that.
Yes, please.
They should. Well, yes. Sorry.
I thought you were going to say examination.
Well, no, where men maybe want to talk about their experiences in a sort of safe area where they know that the only people there are going to be people who completely understand what they've been through, and they can talk without shame, without embarrassment, without being humiliated. So that, of course, but that's not a group where it's where they are not like sort of the men only clubs of the past, which are bastions of power where men are making decisions around women.
No, I'm glad.
But even the spaces, like Helen, you talked about how you have,
I understand
when you cycle into work, there's a changing area that's women's only, but there's probably another changing area that's men's only. So there are spaces men only, but they're not power brokerages. They're just spaces, convenience spaces.
Yes.
So they're still there. And there's a parallel there with gay spaces too. It's really important that gay people have their spaces, gays and lesbians. Yeah. And gay men's spaces were being invaded by, we call them bachelorette parties. I think you call them hen parties in the UK.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Or whatever.
That. Yeah.
Because they're fun spaces and there aren't any straight men around, so the women can come in there and have fun.
Yeah.
But they treat us like zoo animals,
Right.
They're like, you're so cute. Look how gay you are. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. We're not here, like we're wearing our leather chaps and we're doing our gay thing. And then all these women are coming up to us and poking at us like, you're so cute. Put on some Madonna, DJ. Shut up. Get out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
That's very
it was being invaded by straight women. And now it's like straight men and women are coming into the gay spaces because the LGBT is just so popular and everybody's like, oh, I'm queer, so I'm welcome here now, kind of thing. And you see some gay bars just becoming very
There's that guy who's on Open University whose girlfriend has short hair, and so they think they're a queer couple.
Yeah.
So and what's so? I mean, like the word queer. Is if a gay person wants to use the word queer, that's one thing. It's controversial, I know, in even in gay circles. But for a straight couple to use a gay slur to describe themselves is extraordinary. How have we got here? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mind blowing. And you know, all these people defending it. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the next few years because, you know, I do think it's coming to an end, and I can't wait for all these people who have been hounding others out of their jobs and so on to be on the other end of it, on the other end of it. You know, I mean, obviously we'll behave ourselves better than that. We won't hand them out of their jobs, but I can't wait to see them, you know, interviewed like Nolan interviewed Hercombe and Ben Cohen, two of the funniest interviews I've heard in years.
Oh,
like,
I haven't heard those yet.
Oh my God, Ben Cohen not being able to describe two-spirit or even genderqueer, and what's his name, Hercombe. What was the thing Hercombe did again? Oh, it was really funny. Hercombe. Hercombe had to describe. Hercombe had to explain what gender fuck meant. You know, and it's just great because it's what I've been waiting for the last 5 years, which is more of these people on this side actually being asked, what does this mean? What do you mean when you say this? You know, because they don't know. They've just been able to use the incoherence to monster women for 5 years, you know.
I think it's really. I think that's a really important point. I watched the BBC Question Time a little bit open mouthed, because an audience. I don't know if you've seen it, but an audience member asked about Kathleen Stock, should she be allowed to teach, or you know, and this the woman who asked the question was actually fairly reasonable. She was saying, you know, I do think there's certainly should be a space for academic freedom, but also that people should be safe. And if the audience, not the audience, you know, the panel were all like, in an extraordinarily irritating way, I don't see how these two things should be incompatible. And you're like, well, that's because you've not actually been in the fight on the coalface and seen that anything just short of full-on absolute sort of capitulation to the gender cult will sort of get you screamed at as being transphobic. Yes, of course it should be completely compatible. Yeah. I mean, and it is completely compatible. It is compatible because these students aren't unsafe.
That's right. They're completely safe.
They're completely safe. They're only telling you that they're unsafe. But then it was read out what Kathleen Stock had actually said, which was, you know, something along the lines of that trans people should be allowed to live sort of decent lives and express themselves, you know, exactly as they wish. But there are, you know, women should be allowed their own spaces. And the question was, should Kathleen Stock have been allowed to say this? It's just extraordinary.
It's amazing.
I mean, they've picked on such a poor example because Kathleen Stock is really, really moderate.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know me and Kathleen have differences. She doesn't like that I'm a comedy writer, and I blame academia for most of what's been happening the last 5 years. But obviously, I completely support her in all this, and I think that strategically, her kind of moderate stance, even though a lot of people don't agree with it on our side, I think it's strategically brilliant because, you know, she's not done anything wrong. She's not said anything. I think she even might use the word cis, which is another difference between us. But she has not said anything that they can get her on. So they just look utterly insane at the moment. Can I just address something that someone just said? I just wanted to say here, let me tell you what vulnerable women's charity I support. I support Vancouver Rape Relief. We raised £12,000 from them because arseholes like you want to close them down because they won't accept men. So fuck you, Frida Needles. So it's so strategically, you know, I think Kathleen Stock's long term.
Sorry, that was really funny.
It was a nice opportunity to say that. Kathleen Stock strategically and long term has played a blinder, you know, by just kind of, you know, not doing anything that could get her into trouble. Obviously, I've been getting into trouble left, right, and center, you know, but that's because, you know, my feeling is this is a very, very urgent situation. You know, we have kids who are mutilating
you're a comedy writer. I mean, you're different people.
And I'm a comedy writer. I don't
people
see
people
why
have different
I
things
need
to say, and they have a different stance, and they are allowed
Exactly.
to use the tools in their own toolbox that they have, and they're allowed to express themselves in however they want. And some people might agree, and some people might disagree. But this is pluralism. This is the society that we want.
Yeah, we can all have different. As long as we're not as long as we're not attacking other people for taking different tones, you know. I don't think, Graham, you've attacked other people for being moderate. You've just said you disagree and you have a different stance. But I think some moderates will attack you for being more troublemaking.
I only ever
go, and I don't like that, you know.
I only ever go for people when they go for me.
Exactly.
If I always had a rule that on the GC side, I wasn't gonna start complaining about how any woman wants to mount her own resistance campaign. But when people come for me, especially when they're being dishonest, the way Helen Lewis was, then I kind of think the gloves are off and I'm allowed to fight back.
Yeah, but you're usually just defending yourself. Like me, I don't care what anybody says about. I don't care what other people do. But if I'm going to be maligned and if I'm going to be misconstrued, I'll say that I'm being misconstrued.
Well, I think that, and I think that's fair. This
is a good point here. That's very true.
Yeah.
But that's I guess the point I'm making, that her moderation, I mean, she in a way is almost as big a target as Rowling, and Rowling is even more blameless than Stock, in the sense that Rowling just wrote one essay and a couple of tweets, and the essay was all about how domestic violence survivors need spaces, sex segregation to be safe. So like it's I don't know. Again, last days of Rome. These feel to me like the last. Hopefully,
I think I think they might be burning for quite some time yet. But let's see.
Well, I think it'll linger, and I notice one thing, that it does always scare me the way, for instance, certain blue-ticked journalists and people who've invested too much in this nonsense are pushing back against the Nolan investigation. It kind of scares me, because I think,
that's interesting.
Are they going to fight this till the bitter end? Are they going to pretend they were right forever?
Well, but the Nolan investigation is actually this. I mean, it's quite a huge thing, isn't it? Because this is now this is the BBC who've put this out. I mean, that's big. This isn't something on YouTube that we're all sharing. This is on the BBC. This is big. So they are obviously, this is like the reaction to this is going to be huge, because they are going to try and let the BBC know that even, and in fact everyone else, that they will even come for the BBC, just like they will even come for J.K. Rowling. So they are going to make an enormous fuss about this. But I think it's too late now.
They went for the Guardian.
Well, they go for everyone.
I mean, Vic Parsons from I always call Vic Morrow, who's the actor who was decapitated on the Twilight Zone. No offense to Vic, but Vic Parsons went to that protest and was protesting outside the Guardian. So, is it not enough that they covered up the wee spa? What else does Morrow want?
This is my point, right? Unless you're 100%, they will come for you. Like it's got to be. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. It's got to be 100%. Hey, did you see? I don't know. I was a bit sad that not.
Wait, let me just tell someone before you go, Helen. There is a version you can see in the US. It's not geo-blocked anymore. You might even be able to see it from the BBC website. So just do a little digging and you'll get the link. It may even turn up in the links here. Sorry, guys.
So I was going to say, did you see Russell T Davies did a speech? He won an award. Did you see that speech?
I didn't watch it. I heard it.
All right. So I'll very quickly say, so Russell T Davies won an award from, I don't know, Attitude magazine. And he'd made a speech, and it was the most terrible speech. He came over as such a sort of bombastic blowhard, and it was just awful. I mean, it was just terrible. You've got to watch it. We should put a link to it after this, because it is actually funny. It is actually funny. Yeah. It's so terrible. It's funny. He sort of says ridiculous things, like, in what world is too many letters a bad thing? in what society is too many letters a bad thing? Because he says, well, everyone is laughing at the LGBTIQ plus. In what society is too many letters a bad thing? Which in itself is such a stupid question that you think, oh, we set it up for the joke of, I don't know, like the Society of Postmen or something.
Yes.
This is the joke that he set up. But he hadn't. He used it to have a go at the LGBT Alliance, to say, but they come along with only 3 letters. And then he genuinely, in this speech, starts speaking in words where he drops all the letters off but 3 to show how ridiculous it is. And you're like, what are you doing? What are you trying to prove?
He's trying to prove that straight people are a part of the gay movement.
That's right. Yeah, gays need to be inclusive of straight people now. Like,
sorry, Helen. Sorry, Helen.
But he says, but what is interesting, as he goes on, and he goes on and on and on, he then calls it the LGBT Alliance. He then calls them ugly and lazy. So he is now calling women, lesbian women, ugly and lazy. And it is just and you look at it and you think, what an arsehole. It's so unpleasant. An unpleasant man. You know he's blamed mothers. Like it's a sin. He basically blamed mothers for the whole of the AIDS crisis. Mothers, not parents. The fathers got resolution, not mothers. It's all the mother's fault. And you can see the hatred of women coming out in this. It's awful.
He ignored the lesbians who gave blood and companionship to the men who were dying. You know,
right.
Yes, Dennis
and he apologized for that. He gave a.
Sorry, carry on.
Go on.
I was going to say Dennis Kavanagh.
No, you go.
Really nice first. Thread, and he had a nice picture of like a poster and a T-shirt of lesbians, doing the sort of the blood drive and calling other people to do it and wearing T-shirts to advertise it. It was really lovely. And we should link to that later.
We should. And he apologized for that. But then someone found an old quote where he said something along the lines of, and I'm only kind of paraphrasing it. He said, people talk about a lesbian and gay community. There's no community. He said, lesbians, why would I have any interest in lesbians? He said, yuck, or something like that. Yeah. So basically, what we have is the kind of like historic tension that's been experienced in the gay movement between lesbians and gays. Yeah, that has been given the men who are powering the trans rights movement, the gay men who are powering the trans rights movement. A lot of them seem like they hate lesbians, and for him to say that of 2 lesbians like Bev and Kate. Who fucking
it's awful. Yeah. But I forgot. But I forgot the actual the very end of the speech. He says to drop the T is to kill. And then he repeats it, and hoping for big applause, which he gets. He gets a standing ovation for a complete and utter fucking lie.
Fucking despise that because it's one fucking organization. There are some 45 odd organizations that are for lesbians and gays and bisexuals and also cross-dressers and queers. Can we just have one that's just for same-sex attracted people? One fucking organization.
Karen actually said, who did a brilliant video that you must watch, where she debunks the vulnerable and abused trope that politicians trot out every time they're asked about women's rights.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not saying that about women. That women are vulnerable and abused. But Karen actually made a very great point, where she just said the reason the LGBT Alliance in particular drives these people so mad is that they reveal that the existence of an organization that fights only for gay people reveals that the other organizations are standing up for straight men wearing dresses.
That the other organizations have abandoned us altogether. They really have abandoned gays and lesbians altogether. So and it highlights it so clearly that we desperately need an organization for gay and lesbian rights in opposition to all these organizations that have turned against us, Yeah. And it's not just fighting for gay and lesbian rights against society at large. Our enemies are now gay and lesbian rights organizations.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are most hostile to us. Stonewall is the biggest enemy of gays and lesbians. It's shocking,
I know it really is. I mean, just the things like you know, removing same-sex attraction from their website and stuff like that. It's really, I mean, it's so extraordinary that people are still not quite believing it's happening. That's why the Nolan thing is so great, because they use that brilliant structural or format trick of showing the behind-the-scenes conversations between the filmmakers. And Nolan is just constantly saying, you know, well, what's the problem? What's the problem with this? Why do people think this? You know, and the other guy, I think it's his producer or the person working on the show with him, says, well, some people believe this and some people believe this. And it is so clear. For the first time, you get held by the hand and explained from the very tip to the very toe what is going on in this situation. So I would say, you know, if you have people who are on the fence or don't really get what's going on, but want to know, and they're still kind of thrown and don't want to come to my site because I'm toxic or whatever it happens to be, share the Nolan documentary with them, you know, because it draws you in as well. The way it's done is so good. It's actually a fun listen. See, I have a real problem. Even I have a problem watching videos. People send me videos that people have made of, you know, like the state media does them. Karen actually does them. You know, lots of people are doing these brilliant videos, but I can't watch them because I get too angry, you know, and I know everything. I feel like I know everything. Sometimes I watch them by mistake when my guard is down, and they're great, and I think this is amazing. I got to share it, but I never want to do it because I don't want my heart rate to go up again dangerously, you know.
I know. Yeah, I know, right? It gets you so riled up. Yeah,
it really does. You know, it's like putting your head in a beehive. You know, it's like, oh,
what kind of description is that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Putting your head in the beehive wouldn't make you as angry. It would just make you frightened and in pain. But it's as appealing as that, you know.
It's very sticky.
But But anyway, I don't know. So what else has been going on that we can talk about? Loudon is also being pushed back on and ignored.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Chappelle thing again for a second.
Okay. Can I just say I'm seeing them on Wednesday?
Oh, it's so exciting! I'm so envious.
Yeah.
It's so great.
I
hope he gives you a shout out.
It is. No, it's not Wednesday, but it's one of the days this week. I'll find out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm seeing LGBT. I'm doing the LGBT Alliance the next day. So sorry, just plugging that. Go ahead, Arnie.
Oh, that's okay. So Netflix there's a sort of an attempted insurrection like they did to Joe Rogan at Spotify, trying to raise a ruckus, but Netflix stood firm and defended Dave Chappelle, which I thought was really great. And they didn't issue some soppy little, you know, they haven't issued any sop to the trans side. It's just been, we stand firm with Dave Chappelle and what he said. And then they fired somebody who tried to raise a ruckus over this.
Yeah, but they rehired him.
I thought they fired a woman also.
Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Oh, they fired someone who released details of the Chappelle special of how well it did.
Oh, okay.
Which is only going to benefit the creators, because Netflix won't tell you how much what their figures are like.
Yeah, that's right. They don't do Nielsen ratings at Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't kind of say to them, I can't go to the IT crowd and say, well, it did this well for you last year, I want more money. You know, because you don't know. You just don't know. It's amazing.
That's actually surprising that, yeah.
It's amazing they can get away with it. It's amazing they can get away with it, you know.
Yeah, like you need stats for royalties and things.
But there was another group, wasn't there, who broke into an office. There was an interview with a director and went, you know, and started kind of clumping around, talking about how insulted they were.
I know, and like I saw the picture of that one guy who claims to be a trans woman, and it just seems like you know, someone who's just a little bit of on the autism spectrum and seems like a sad kind of fellow, and just sort of immediately issuing these statistics about people like us who died. He's talking about, like, you know, Brazilian gay black prostitutes working the streets who've been killed, and acting like him, a rich, white, straight, very, very high, you know, with a very well-paid job at Netflix guy who, you know, cross-dresses, thinking that he's somehow in league with impoverished, developing country black people of color who are gay and struggling on the streets. You know, like, what are you fucking talking about?
That's one of the things that irritates me the most. It's the appropriation of other people's deaths It's just awful, isn't it? It's a terrible thing. That and the suicide, would you rather have a dead daughter or a live son? That sort of thing is just appalling.
The other thing you have to realize, and I think Dave Chappelle nailed this, is that this is a white power movement. This is a movement that bestows more power on white men at a time when they had started to see the kind of the levels equalize with black people and people of color and women. And they noticed that this was happening, and they decided to jump up to the top of the oppression index. And so you have all these people within these organizations, and they are considered the most vulnerable and wonderful and magical creatures, and Dave Chappelle went on TV and said, these are just white guys. These are just white guys who are getting ahead by saying that they're women.
Well, this goes to what I was saying about you don't police a sort of marginalized identity like gay because you don't have to, or Muslim. Nobody's claiming to be Muslim when they're not, so that they can get oppression points. But everybody's claiming to be transgender, because it's two birds with one stone. You get to express your sexual, jollies in feminine clothing. A lot of men find that very, very, it's fun to cross-dress. A lot of men find it sexy. They just don't want to do it in public because there's a social stigma against that. That stigma's been lifted and turned into a privilege now. So everybody's clamoring for it, Yeah.
Owen Hercombe is the best example in the UK. Like Owen Hercombe, the brilliant thing about Owen Hercombe is he got headlines in newspapers like The Guardian saying the first non-binary mayor. He's just a white dude. That's all. Yeah. He's a young white dude.
And they said the first out non-binary mayor. Like there's a bunch of struggling mayors who are secretly non-binary,
Yeah.
Ken Livingstone has been waiting this whole time.
And the thing is, like, is there anything more normal and one's frozen and one's gone? That's hilarious. Oh no, you're back. Is there anything more kind of standard and more kind of expected than a white man attaining political power? There is nothing more run of the mill, and yet Owen Hercombe got headlines up the wazoo because he fucking said that he's non-binary.
And talk about living life in easy mode. That's not hard work to declare yourself non-binary.
No,
you didn't form a charity. You didn't save someone's life and run into a burning building.
Here's another thing, right? Like when I talk about the Savills who are being connected as well, there's not just Jimmy Savile as a personality type. There's not just these monstrous predators. There are also Trumps, right? Donald Trump is a type of human being who you can see in different walks of life all through, so like obviously it's made an extraordinary, his richness has not done good things for him. He's an extraordinary mess, of a human being. But there are other people who aren't rich but have still got those same things. And the thing that Donald Trump has is he has a brass neck, So this movement empowers dishonest Trump types who have a brass neck. If you can get, look at all these men who went on the Her app, they have a brass neck. They put a bit of lipstick on. Some of them didn't even do that. And they wrote lesbian in their bio. Who the fuck did they
hate that? It's almost weaponizing people's, giving people the benefit of the doubt, people's charitable nature, people's goodness, people's trust.
Yes, exactly. And that's my point. The people who would take advantage of these things, are not good people. They're
exactly the people we need to defend against. It's just like the rules of safeguarding have to assume the worst of everyone and not assume the best of everyone. And the rules of gender ideology are you're supposed to assume the best of everybody. That is dangerous,
Helen, you might need to turn on your
You're choppy.
You're choppy. You're why don't you try turning off your camera and see if it works with your sound? Oh wait, I can do that. No, you can switch. Why don't you switch on and off again? I can't believe I'm saying that, but why don't you switch it off and on again? And
I'll bet you dread ever saying that.
I know, it's terrible. I could never ask. No, Helen, you sound like Gary Newman around the first album. No, sorry. You're going to have to. No, you don't sound like Gary Newman at all. That was a terrible. Actually, Gary Newman always sounded very clear.
You meant.
You might have to, do that. That's a good idea, Hope. But what were we saying? Yeah, but my point is this, right? The nature of this ideology, the way it is set up, it is empowering the people you do not want empowered. You don't want Donald Trump empowered. You don't want Jimmy Savile empowered. You know, these people are these, and you know, if you have a thing, right, and the only kind of gatekeeping around it is, well, if you say, you know, as Amnesty so famously said, I am what I say I am.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example. So I used to run an event venue, and in the summertime, during the daytime, it was sort of a day camp for girls. It was a girls' day camp. It was a sort of a music program. I don't want to get too specific and name it or whatever. And we had the strictest policies around no men. I had to issue these like 10-page bulletins to everybody. Like, you know, because an event venue during the day, there's activities going on. There's beer deliveries, there's repairmen coming in, there's mail deliveries, there's business meetings, there's just men coming in and out of an event venue during the day. We had to have no men, doors locked, no males. This is a women-only space because there are girls, young girls, for a day camp for girls, summer activities. So we had to like rearrange our deliveries. We had to rearrange our repairs. We had to have the janitors come in at like 6 a.m. and get them out by 8 because there had to be no males in this space whatsoever. This was deadly serious business. I couldn't even be there, you know, unless I arranged to be there and had an escort. So I was never alone with a girl, you know, and I walk in, I arrange to come in, and I come in, and the first person I see is one of the daycare teachers, is a middle-aged man with long hair and some lipstick. You know, it's a trans person. Yes, AGP transsexual, heterosexual male. And it's just like, what?
Yeah, but again,
they're like, that's a woman. I'm like, literally, the second there's a space that's only for females, you know, a lot of these males, they just see that as like, oh, this is an opportunity for validation. So they flock to it, you know? So instantly this male shows up and is now a teacher. So they're saying you can have absolutely no female males in this space whatsoever. And like of the 6 female women adults, one of them is a man, just a obvious burly man, you know, in a with long hair and a little blouse, you know. It's just, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. That's exactly the kind of person who shouldn't be in that space. If it's that dangerous to have males in that space, the kind of male who's going to apply to be in that space is exactly the male who you should not have in that space, you know?
Yeah. That's why I have a lot of respect for trans people who don't take that advantage, who do not impose themselves on those spaces, you know, who may even have done it in the past and have apologized for it and have kind of realized by listening to feminists, you know, that certain things are not okay. It's great to see. But like, you know, I saw someone saying it earlier. That's some people accuse me of saying I believe in true trans because I've never said that in my life. But like,
you know, it's hard because we talk sometimes about sort of, there are some people who identify as transsexual who are clearly have gender dysphoria and are doing their best to cope with it by transitioning. And we can have compassion for those people without saying they're true trans, but they have a genuine need for something and they're trying their best to sort of not, you know.
Exactly. And it's kind of sorry, what was I going to say? Actually, Helen, since you're back, let's get you back and I'll try and think of what I was going to say. Do you know what? Oh, I thought you were frozen again for a second. Do you know what were you going to say? She is frozen.
Oh no, Helen, you're frozen.
It's so funny. She just looks like she's considering what she's about to say. Let's pretend she's live. Come on, Helen. What's wrong? Helen. Sorry, no, that's not funny. That's weird. But while hopefully she warms up. Oh, it's a shame that this isn't working for her. I wonder what's going on.
You're back. You're back. You moved.
I think.
Yay!
Oh, I am.
Now you just speed it up.
I'm gone. I think
you
I'm
look
gone.
like
Oh, for a minute there, like fast forwarded through the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Am I back?
Oh, now you're back.
You're
okay.
back. You're back. Yeah. What were you going to say, Helen? Do you remember? It was about half an hour ago.
No.
We've got. It's not good.
What's going on?
I don't remember it at all. Carry on.
Why don't you try turning off your camera, see if that helps? You know, we might be able to hear you, but not see you. See if that works. How's that? Let's try a few words.
Well, apologies. Yeah. I think Virgin is playing up.
Okay, yeah. Why don't you just tell us what you're going to tell us? We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Because I can't remember, because it was too long ago.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
I'm so sorry.
And you've totally derailed what we were talking about.
Yes, totally.
But
I'm really sorry.
Let's remember, right, that what we're saying, what Artie is saying about female-only spaces attracting these, men, some of whom might, be absolutely fine, but some of whom are dangerous, and many of whom are AGP, right? Let's not forget the lesbian festival, even though I've forgotten the name. What was it called, Artie? The lesbian festival?
Michfest.
Michfest. Let's not forget Michfest, right?
Yeah.
Where there was a lesbian festival. It was protested regularly by extremely aggressive men, who identified as trans. And finally, one of the organizers was murdered by one of these men, along with her child and her partner, right? These things are not just us blabbering on. These are things that have happened and could happen again until we stop talking about how to protect these single-sex spaces, So anyway, I just wanted to make sure.
I think we were saying this the other day, weren't we? This is the problem with a self-selecting group that you can just add yourself to if you want to, because it is going to attract a high proportion of narcissists, because it is something that they can use to make themselves special. And look at me, we can't. And it often.
Oh, sorry.
And it does.
Sorry.
As well as actually, people who should be in there. It's getting piled in with a whole load of other people, like the Philia conference this weekend. I've seen. I was supposed to go, but I've been unable to make it. I've seen, the protesters at the front, and there is one sign saying, "Suck my dick, you transphobic cunts." and you're like, yeah, that's gonna make us think, oh yeah, hang on, I'm wrong.
Oh, there's the good guys
wrong
there.
About this.
That's the good guy, the one who's saying "suck my dick, you cunt." That's the side of progress right there.
Yeah.
Right side of history.
These are kids who've grown up with.
And it's.
Oh,
you're back.
Trying it on.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. You're a little bit vague, but it's working. Go on.
And so it's the most, and that is such a power play, isn't it? It's so obvious. They aren't trying to win people round. They're trying to force people to. They're trying to force people around. They don't care. They are not trying to win hearts and minds. They are trying to assert their power, and they are going to. And they want to win
dominance. Yeah.
By dominating, by force.
Yeah.
They want to take it by force. Yeah. They don't want it to be given. They want to take it by force.
Yeah. Well, they're not getting it. It's we're coming up to an hour, so we might as well leave it at that. I think that's a great spot to leave it on. That was a nice casual one. We there's probably more we haven't covered. We didn't really get into question time and all that sort of stuff, but we touched on every most important things, I think. Please like and subscribe as always. We'll have another one on Wednesday. Who are we speaking to on Wednesday? Do you remember?
We've got Ray Blanchard coming on Wednesday.
Ray Blanchard, excellent.
Which is incredibly exciting, I think.
Yes, it's very exciting. I'm very excited. He's my hometown boy, and we're acquainted and a little bit online, and I'm very excited to have him on. Yeah, he's someone I admire very much. Yeah.
Great. Well, then we can. That might be also another thing for people who are interested in learning more about AGP. So
it's a very fascinating topic, and it's going to be really great. Yeah.
Excellent. All righty. Well, we'll see you then. See you on Wednesday, everybody. And I will see you. I'll be in another pod hotel probably when we do it. So I will see you then. And if anyone's going to Chappelle this week, do hit me up and let me know and say hello if you see me. All right, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.